Hey, what up, knitters? Welcome to the Knitty McPurly podcast, snow edition. It snowed, you guys. It snowed actually for Virginia a lot. We got 3 inches one day, and then a couple days went by and another 3 inches, and it was so cold that none of it has melted. Kids have been sledding. It has been glorious. Not a lot of schoolwork has gotten done, but that's okay. I would rather have the snow. It's been amazing. It's 20 degrees today, and it is glorious. I'm very, very excited about it. I am drinking coffee today out of I've coordinated this whole thing, mug from New Orleans. Thank you so much, Marie, for sending me this beautiful mug. This mug is so pretty that it is stolen the most. I can almost never find it. I had to dig it out of the dishwasher because it's always in use because it is so beautiful. Usually Gigi or Alexis. I mean, everyone drinks some sort of hot drink at some given time, but those two are the most egregious, after myself, of course. I'm also drinking water out of my ever-present Colorado mug. Thanks, Julie and Deb. I use this all the time to drink water all day long. Today, I have podcast on the top, outdoor walk on the bottom. So bear with me. I am wearing my Awaken sweater in Knitty McPurly Frankfurt Fingering Meadow. And this was, I think, June's color of the month. But I just love this together. I've got my fleece-lined leggings on so that I can hopefully go for a walk later. That would be amazing. We'll see. The trails are covered, but snow is okay. I don't mind walking in the snow, but the ice, I don't want to be taking these tiny little steps. So we'll see. Hopefully I can make it out there later today. Okay, progress and shop news. All right, big news in the shop this week is that my winter balm is out and available. It is Mimosa Cardamom, which it has this really pretty label. Oranges are on there because they are wintry and beautiful, and mimosa brings to mind thoughts of oranges, but the scent is not really very orange. It's very, it smells like perfume. Like if you went into the Macy's perfume counter, it kind of smells like that. You can see I have been using mine a lot. I actually had somebody order some balm. So here, I'm just gonna get that much and just rub it in. It smells so good. It's a light smell. It's not like an overpowering kind of a smell. But I have one by my bed. I think the one by my bed, I don't know, I think it's last year's winter one. But I had someone order some balm and she said, last night my son had dry hands and so he put some on and he woke up and he was like, my hands are fixed. So she was ordering him his very own knitter's hand balm. Awesome. I love the balm. I'm gonna get a little bit more. The balm. It's just so great. If you don't want to get it on the palms of your hands, you can get the stick and then you can just kind of do it like that and then rub them together like that. I like to coat everything personally. So anyway, that is available in the shop right now if you would like some. I usually do a seasonal scent. I'll do different ones for different times of year. This time of year, I tend to do more because it's really balm season, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. I have many Southern Hemisphere watchers. Welcome from the tundra, my friends in Perth, Australia, and South America. Always lovely to hear from you guys. You're like, yeah, I am sweating because it's 100 degrees. That's so funny. Okay, also, I have a new color. I've been talking about this for weeks. I'm not gonna go into it too much because I've been talking about it for weeks. But the Jovis colorway, here it is in Dubrovnik DK. I brought up my duster and I think I'm gonna show it to you. It's not in a pretty stage of development. It's not one of these, kind of round yoke top down that always look pretty. Sweaters like this, it goes through kind of an ugly phase. It's in its ugly duckling phase right now, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway in a minute. All of my January color of the month was downstairs in my studio, so I didn't go down and get that. But if you're interested in January's color of the month, it comes in Frankfurt Fingering, Dubrovnik Decay, or as a sock set. Go get it because it is on its way to being sold out. If I sell out early enough, I'll dye more. But if I sell out and January's almost over, I'm not gonna dye more as I have in the past. But February is coming. And let me tell you what is coming in February. So February 2nd is a Friday, and that's the day I normally have my newsletter go out. So on that day, I will have for the newsletter subscribers a new permanent colorway, just like I did this month. We'll have another one for February, new permanent color. February's color of the month, which will coordinate with the new color. And that will be in the Frankfurt Fingering, the Dubrovnik Decay, and the sock set, which is the Frankfurt Fingering with an extra mini skein. And I will also have a Valentine's Day kit. I think this year's Valentine's Day kit, I don't normally do one. Normally I do a Lent calendar, but this year the Valentine's Day kit is really, really cute. It's got some kind of funny, jokey stuff, so I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. It's great for people who want Valentine's Day goodies, but maybe don't want the extra calories. So I personally would like both. I would like the goodies and the chocolates, please. But anyway, I'll share more with you on that as the time gets closer. So that kit is in a really cute bag, which I can't wait to show you. It has 5 20-gram minis and a special Valentine's Day balm that is a different scent from this one. And I think there's gonna be stitch markers in there. I haven't fully decided on the stitch marker situation, but I will keep you posted on that. I have been furiously knitting the duster and designing the duster. So I basically have 2 going at various stages so that I can try things out and design them on the needles while also having one that I can use to film the tutorials. So the first one that I'm making is for me, and I'm just gonna show it to you. Bear with me. Like I said, it's the ugly duckling phase. I've got it in this cute basket that I got at, I think, the Shenandoah Fiber Festival one year, or Maryland Sheep and Wool maybe. Oh man, I thought I was gonna put it on, but here I am in the middle of a row. All right, well, I won't be putting it on, but I will hold it up for you. So I'm going to call this kind of an intermediate pattern, not because of the stitch pattern. It does have like a faux rib that is very, very easy to work. However, because of the I-cord edge, and it's got a slanting shoulder. Shoulders slant, knitters call this shoulder drop. And so if a sweater does not have that drop built into it, then it's going to have more of a boxy look, which is fine. That look is actually in right now, but I chose not to go that route with this sweater. See, we've got all the tails. It's just not super pretty. But I wanted you to see the stitch pattern, which I think is fabulous, and the I-cord edge. But this is not the edge. This is just where we are right now. So here, this is the armhole, so there's no I-cord edge on there. And this is where the sleeve is going to be knit from the top down in one piece without seaming. Let's see, I think it's probably big enough that I could put one arm in. So it has an I-cord edge, but this is more of a design element than an edge because we are also going to pick up a front band. And I just think it's gonna be really cool. It also has, let's see, pockets right here, and there's gonna be a button. So the pocket is of the type where you put the stitches on hold, and we're gonna later knit the back of the pocket so as not to interrupt the stitch pattern. So that's where I am on this one. You know, just as kind of an update, I've got another week until I'm going to have the pattern to the tech editor. And I told her, I'm like, the knitting is not going to be done, but I will have the pattern ready for her in another week. And then it's going to go to my teeny tiny tester group. And in hopefully, God willing, if everything works out the way that I want, in mid-March, I will open up a preview knit for anyone who wants to knit this sweater. Now, because it is a duster, which is a long sweater, it's going to take a lot of yarn. So people in the preview knit group will have a yarn discount if you want to get the yarn from me, which you certainly do not have to. You can use any DK weight yarn that you want if you want to join in on the preview knit in March. So mid to late March is when that will be available. So I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to wear it. I want to wear it right now. I was really inspired by this picture of Jennifer Aniston in this. She's got like a trench coat, but I love how long it is. And it's such a classic outfit. It's a very classic look. And I wanted to have something that kind of had that vibe to it while still being a sweater. A lot of the trendy sweaters that the kids are wearing these days are very baggy. When I talked to my daughters about this sweater, they were like, I love it. Can the sleeves not be tight? And I was like, yeah, I don't want the sleeves to be tight. I want it to be something you could put over long sleeves. I don't want them to be fitted at all, but not gigantic. You know, a lot of sweaters these days that are being knit and that you can find in the stores are just huge. And that's only flattering on people who are very, very slim. Just very, very tiny people look good in oversized stuff like that. The rest of us just look like we're wearing clothes that are too big. So anyway, this has a nice fitted shoulder and it'll have a sleeve that is loose but not bulky. So with the same stitch pattern, I really wanted a knobbly looking pattern that was easy to work, because there's a million knobbly patterns out there, stitch patterns, but some of them are so complicated to knit that it would just take too much brain power for this much knitting. This pattern is extremely simple. I think you're really going to like it. Okay, so I went back and forth on my topic of the week. And I thought I would just share this little anecdote from my life because it was crazy talk. So the other day, Charlotte is dyslexic, my youngest daughter. And so I've been trying to incentivize her to read. So I was in Hobby Lobby, like my favorite store in the world, and I was picking up little prizes to put in a basket for her to choose after she reads a book. So I'm in there and I'm looking around and I'm wearing my allotrope hat because that hat is amazing. It is so warm and I just love it. So a lovely lady walks past me and she's on her phone and she looks at me and she goes, I love your hat. And then she goes, oh my gosh, you're Knitty McPurly. And I look and on her phone is a Murdog sticker. I was like, this is the nexus of the universe. Like, how is this happening right now? I mean, granted, I'm in Hobby Lobby. It's not like we were at, the rodeo or NASCAR or something, like it was our place. But I was just like, oh my gosh, her name is Mari. And we talked for a few minutes and it was lovely to meet her. And she lives locally. She lives actually not far from where my older two kids go to school. And I was just like, that was crazy. So awesome. So if you happen to see me or like my car with the little Murdog sticker, just give me a little beep. If you see any of the knits around, like, oh, is that Devin? Come and wave, come and say hi. Crazy. So much fun. Mari, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you for saying hello to me. Awesome. Okay. Now, the Crocheting with Gigi segment, we got a little hilarious. And I actually had to calm myself down before filming the rest of the podcast because we laughed so hard. So here is that. Do like a, hang on. Okay. All right, why are you so tall?
I don't know. Could slouch.
As tall as I.
We look totally cool. Here, maybe I'm too close.
Okay.
Maybe I'll.
Yes?
You look a little bit short.
This is the only time you'll ever be taller than me.
No.
Oh.
Hey! Give me a minute. All right, you need to
Hello,
Yay!
knitters! Was that awkward?
That was really, I was
talking?
mid-sentence
Go
and you were
ahead.
just like, hi! I'm like, all right,
Okay.
wow.
What were you saying?
I wasn't saying anything.
Hello, knitters! Welcome to Crocheting with
Gigi, the best segment here.
Best segment
Why you
ever.
skip the entire, why you skip, oh shoot, you're
Right, just
skipping.
plus 10
Just
seconds.
plus 10 till you see me and you're like, oh great.
Here we
It's
are.
all worth it. So the blanket you've been hearing about for months is done.
Done.
I'm gonna come back here actually.
Yeah. There's lots of space.
Here's what it looks like.
We can see the whole thing.
And so we went to Hobby Lobby, got some fluffy fabric. Took me 2 hours of sitting on the floor with bad posture, whip stitching this, and it has a backing.
Oh my
So it
gosh.
reminds me of the movie Tangled with Rapunzel.
Yes.
With like the poisonous flower that makes you live forever. I don't know.
You'll get lipstick on it if you throw it on me. It's so heavy.
It's so
So,
heavy.
I think that this is like minky, but I always think of the one with the dots. We saw the dots.
Yes, but I
We didn't
wasn't
want
interested.
the dots. That's for babies who like to feel the dots, but this is
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Yeah, and
It's
you can
pretty
kind of
good.
see where I stitched it, like a whip stitch, but it's not super visible.
It's really not.
And so the flowers, I noticed when I was just sleeping on it, it would kind of like, the two pieces would pull apart and then it would kind of like shift too far, and I didn't like that. So I tacked down the flowers where like you see the circle. You just tied a knot, went through the flower, and then went around that little circle and just like...
And it's pretty invisible because this is fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And the fluffiness, the stitches just disappear in
It's
there.
a really big, heavy blanket.
I love how heavy it is.
Mm-hmm.
I
I don't know
just
how
want
we
it
got the
on.
heaviness.
It's all this. It's mainly the yarn. The yarn is heavy.
Yeah, and this will
is-
last
Yeah.
forever.
Yay! It's like a bulky yarn from Hobby Lobby. It's Yarn B, I think, which is their like
B-E-E, like the bug.
the bug. It's their whatever. The Hobby Lobby yarn brand.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Yeah.
so... I was thinking about a different pink for a while,
Uh-huh.
but Mom told me that, like, about contrast. Now you want like different shades, and I like it so much more.
Moms know things.
Moms just know. It's like dads.
Mhm.
They just know stuff. You ask them, and they're like, I know.
I don't know.
Who just knows?
Oldness is what does it. Or experience, if you wanted to say that nicer.
Oh yeah, it's my experience with life. Now you've been here longer.
It looks so good. So why don't
really
you,
does.
Gigi, while we sit here with this wonderful blanket on us, why don't you tell us about the newest project that you are planning on starting? Remember, you were just looking for yarn?
Just now.
Just now.
I wanted to make Kirby,
I'll
which
put up a picture.
they know
so
what
they can see.
Nintendo is, right?
Oh, that Kirby.
What Kirby were you thinking of?
The monster that I made for Charlotte, the name of that pattern is Kirby Werby. So I thought it was that one, but she means Kirby from Nintendo.
I mean the puffy one where he's like, and then he like
Yes.
spits air at people, and
Yes.
I meant Kirby.
Oh, well, that's a much smaller pattern. I didn't
Yeah.
think about that. Do we have that pattern? We have to go find it.
I found it. I already
Oh.
found it, but you know she has the perfect Kirby pink, but it's the pink she's using for Alexis's blanket. And since Alexis is the favorite child, I'm not allowed to use the blanket or the yarn. So
I love that you said that. It's going to make her day that you called her the favorite child.
I feel like you should just let me use the yarn and then give her Kirby with the
See,
blanket.
do you see what I deal with on a daily basis? They get into my phone and they change each other's names.
Yeah, currently I'm Gigi the disappointment.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think Alexis is the favorite because Alexis got in there last.
And sometimes I'm Gigi, the first child that mattered.
Right, when she has gotten in there and changed it.
Okay, I don't think-
just need to change the code to get in there so nobody can get in there anymore. You're like,
Anyway.
don't be so hasty.
That's irrelevant. I mean, I think it's just kind of a joke. Anyway, so I feel like I should use the yarn to make Kirby. Anyway, we don't have the yarn, so I might make him later. But currently, since I've given up on that dream, I realized that I have orange left over from the blanket that I
New
made
dream.
for Dad. New dream. And
So now you're gonna make.
So now I'm gonna make Tigger.
Tigger.
T-I-double-G-R.
Let's do
They
it.
spelled it wrong on the pattern with only one G. And I was like, I'm sorry, did you even watch the movie?
So it was just a plain old ordinary
Tiger. I'm like, not Tigger. Like, it's really disgusting.
Duh.
Anyway, there might be a Tigger next week, unless I give up on that too in the next 5 minutes, which might happen, seeing how we already seen that cycle.
People send me crochet patterns all the time on Instagram, and I send them to you and to Alexis too, and I'm like, oh, look at these. Yeah, maybe check your Instagram, see what I sent you. There was one where it's a hen, and it's got a space in the bottom, and you pull out the egg, which is crocheted.
Ew.
That's a little weird.
That's a little weird. I don't like that.
But then the egg, I think, opens up into a chick.
That's so much work.
Is it too much chick
what
anatomy?
What do you do with it? You're like, guys, look here.
Look, it's an egg. People are like horrified.
You just, that's your party trick. You're like, hey guys, look at this chicken. Take out the egg.
People are like, oh, my eyes.
We're gonna have to cut this part out.
Oh, people love this part. They're home laughing along with us. Now you have to just to reach in there, pull out the egg, and then flip it over. It's a lot. I didn't realize it till I said it out loud. When they did it on the Instagram video, it was way less weird.
I didn't realize it. Yeah, they're just like.
I feel like we need to end this. Put it out of its misery.
So far in the wrong direction.
Too many words.
But also in the right direction.
Thank you for joining us for Crocheting with Gigi. We will see you next week with either a tiger
or Kirby
or a Tigger or a Kirby
or nothing
or a chicken.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, we have a good time. It's hilarious. All right, moving right along to the comments section. Jerry sent me this email saying, Devin, I emailed you a little while ago telling you I was starting a Go Lightly sweater. You told me at the time that I would love it and it was a very comfortable sweater. Well, all that said, loving is an understatement. I love it. It's going to be one of my favorite sweaters of all time. I wore it to church yesterday with my Joy necklace and both were a big hit. Thank you for designing such a beautiful sweater. This sweater knit by Jerry is gorgeous. I love the color. I love the yarn. This looks to me, I'm not sure what yarn it is, but looks to me to not be a hand dye. It's very uniform, which looks fabulous on this design because it's so basic. The color is gorgeous. With the necklace, it looks so great. The Go Lightly sweater pattern just has a straight turtleneck, and it looks like Jerry has turned it under and stitched it, which looks gorgeous. I think it looks so, so good, Jerry. You did an amazing, amazing job. Thank you for sharing that with me. Another podcast watcher named Anissa sent me this email. She said, Devin, watching your newest episode of another knitter mentioning losing stitch markers, I thought I would share a neat tip I heard on another podcast. See pictures. Using crochet thread, tie a tail to your stitch marker. I think she means like embroidery floss. Is that what you mean, Anissa? Because it looks like embroidery floss to me, but you could probably use any thin yarn or string. Tie it to the stitch marker and then knit it into your project to secure it. You won't lose your stitch marker any longer and you'll be able to pull the tail right out when your project is complete. One picture shows how to make the tail and the other shows the back of the project with the tail knit into the work. Thank you so much for your podcast. This is a great tip. I messaged her back and said, is this annoying or time consuming? And she said, no, it's really not at all. It's very simple. So I still think it would be a great idea to do if it's a special stitch marker you don't want to lose, and if you don't have 35 of them in the project. If you have 35, it might annoy you, but maybe not, because I guess you're just knitting over top of the thread in such a way that you could just pull it out later. And then would the thread just move up the project as it got bigger, I guess? I don't know. I haven't tried this, but it's a great tip. I'm willing to try it at some point. Another email I got from Rachel says, hi Devin, I just wanted to share with you that my first 2024 FO is your Williamsburg cowl. It was such an enjoyable knit that I immediately cast on a second one. This pattern is going to be my go-to gift accessory for 2024. Everyone is getting one. I love this pattern. It has bobbles and cables, so it's not for like a new beginner, but for somebody who likes to have things happen in their knitting project. It's a one skein project. I myself have knit 2 of them and I love them. I need to pull them out and wear them more often, because you know how when something, you made it a couple years ago and you wore it like every day for a long time and then you kind of put it away and forget about it? That's been my Williamsburg cowl, and I need to get it back out again because it's a really fun project and it looks really fancy. People will think that you are a yarn magician if you give it to them as a gift, because it does look really fancy. Okay, this was a fun email that I got from Lisa. Lisa sends me a link to YouTube and she says, I had to email you this when it popped up in my YouTube feed. Apparently Barbara Walker is alive and kicking. So I have linked the video that Lisa sent me down below. And this is, I forget what it's called. It's called like Free Thought or something. And it's put on by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, FFRF. Freedom from Religion Foundation. Who knew that that existed? I watched about half of it and then I turned it off because I thought it was depressing. But Barbara Walker is 92. And I'm not exactly sure when this video was made. I should have looked before I filmed this, but it seemed like it was recent. And she's, you know, seems like she's doing great. She talks about why she's an atheist. And, you know, just my Christian mind as I was watching it was thinking of all of the things that I would love to say to her to rebut what she was saying. I don't know that she would have any interest in talking to me. I looked online. After that, I really thought about her a lot, and I looked online to see if I could contact her in any way, because I would love to talk to her. I have no idea if she would have any interest in talking to me. I'd love to talk to her about knitting. I'd love to talk to her about Christianity, because she's 92. And you know, I feel like after COVID, everyone is not open to the fact, and probably we never were, but COVID kind of shined a light on the fact that many people are not open to or aware of the fact that we all will die. Our death is something that will happen to us. And it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be in 50 years, but you are going to die at some point. And I personally have it doesn't make me feel anything except like, okay, whenever, now, later, fine, I don't care. But I think that God is real, and it makes me nervous when people don't think he is and they're 92. And I just want to be like, can we have coffee, Barbara, please, please? Like, I'm concerned for your immortal soul. Let's have coffee, or let's talk. I don't know where I feel like she lives in New Jersey. I don't know if she still lives there, but I will drive to come see you, Barbara, if you're willing to talk to me. So anyway, moving right along. Dilly Dahlia says, I totally agree about undyed yarn being ugly because of the yellow cast. Your new Jovis colorway is gorgeous, a creamy white that reminds me of whipped cream. Regarding husband's knitting, a few years ago, mine was trying to think of a white elephant type of gift for his office Christmas party, and he asked me to show him how to knit a hat. So we went to Joann's and picked up some bulky acrylic yarn in red and white. I did the cast on with large needles and did a few rows of ribbing to get him started, and then I showed him how to do the knit stitch. It was the cutest thing watching him be so intent and focused on knitting the 2 hats. I even showed him how to do the decreases. Best of all, the person who got the hat was absolutely thrilled. He hasn't knit anything since, but that's okay. We don't need both of us to have a yarn habit. Isn't that the truth? And on that, excuse me, same vein, Oklahoma, Texas Sheep Lady said, you are doing Audrey proud, or is the Hepburn named after Catherine. No, Audrey. Katharine Hepburn, also very classy and a knitter too, but Audrey Hepburn was the main inspiration for my Audrey Hepburn and Go Lightly sweaters. She says, as you asked about men knitting, I thought of an ancestor who was said to knit. I think he was my grandmother's uncle. He also was a surgeon and knit to keep his fingers agile. He would have lived in the mid-1800s. On some historical sites, it is said that only men knit years ago because it was considered a privilege. I guess women were kind of busy. You know, if you think about all of the modern conveniences that we have in our lives and the traditional roles that women fulfilled, they just wouldn't have had much time for knitting. Although men, you know, if they were farming, or I guess it depends on what they did for a living, they wouldn't have had much time either. She says, there were pictures of shepherds knitting as they watched their flocks atop tall stilts. Cool. Interesting. Okay. Lisa of the Old Orcutt Yarnery, which is a yarn store out in California. Hi, Lisa. Says, fun fact, since your friend who's my age just went back to get her master's, she says it's never too late. I went back to start my bachelor's when I was 50, and a few years later went for my master's as well. I'm now 62, and about 10 or 11 years ago, when I finished up my master's, I contacted a friend of mine who knit and said, teach me to knit. I need to use the other part of my brain for a while. I had spent a number of years working full-time and going to school, and I felt like I lost track of my creative side. She met me at a fast food restaurant with knitting needles and yarn and taught me how to knit. I loved it and never looked back. For my first project, she said, just pick something that says beginner. I picked a scarf pattern and started knitting. But then one day I was a bit lost and couldn't figure out which row I was on because I didn't know how to read my stitches yet. So my knitting friend was out of town, so I took the project to a local yarn store and said, help. She looked at it and read the stitches and told me what row I was on. She asked how long I'd been knitting, and I told her, and she's like, why are you making this pattern? I says, it says beginner. Well, it was a beginner cable pattern, which is not necessarily for a beginner. Ha ha, I didn't know what I didn't know. Now, all these years later, I've retired, and 2 years ago, I opened a yarn store. It's been fantastic. Anyway, my point is, it's never too late. That is awesome. I love that story. Knock Knits, Emily. Hi, Emily. Said, I also read the Hugh Howey trilogy after watching the Silo series on Apple TV. I think it's called Wool because there is one group of people pulling the wool over the eyes of another group of people. I do not have Apple TV, but I'm super interested in the Silo series because I have already read this trilogy. I read it back, I think, when it came out. It was originally on Kindle Unlimited, and I read it then. And Gigi just got interested, and so I've been rereading it. I'm on the second book too. Another commenter said that the reason it's called wool is because wool is what they use to clean the sensors when the cleaners go outside. Yeah, true. And what Emily says here is also true. At the very beginning, with the original Mayor, they have a chapter called Casting On and one called Casting Off. It's like he started to do the knitting thing and then he just didn't bring it back. I don't know. If it were me, I think I would have named it something else. Anyway, Sandra Foster had a really interesting comment. She said, I was a preteen and teenager in the 50s. The women were not that thin. Same size as today's women. The pictures were just as sugary as today. And nobody knitted those styles or patterns. You had to be there. I was a size 12 then, but by today's standard, I'm a 6. So as you size those patterns, check your gauge against their gauge. That's a good point. Vanity sizing has taken over sizing so that now everything is vanity. I feel like almost all of the clothes that I buy come in small, medium, and large. And I don't know, sizing is just different now than it used to be. That's why it's helpful that there's a bust measurement because that doesn't change. So that's nice. Okay, there were tons of amazing comments. I wish I could have included more of them. Thank you so much to everyone who left me a comment. I read them all and I really appreciated them. Okay, knitting fantasies. If you are new to the podcast, or if your husband is listening from the background, Knitting Fantasies is a segment where we talk about things that we wish we could knit if we had the time, but we don't. Maybe some of us do, and that's why it's fun to highlight new patterns. I had someone say my husband overheard that and wasn't quite sure what this podcast was about. Hilarious, so funny. All right, my first pick. Actually, I think I just have the one. I looked at a lot of heart/Valentine's patterns, and I didn't find very many that I liked. So, but this one I really liked. This is the Heart Sweater by Knitting Kiki, and this is a vintage Norwegian pattern that I don't know if she translated it to English or if she's just, reselling it after it's been translated to English. I think it's really cute. It looks really modern, but here is the original picture of the sweater, and it does not look modern at all. Like, I guess, you can tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit shorter or style it differently to make it look like it has come from a different era. But this definitely has full-on 80s vibes. It's probably also the hairstyles and just the style of picture. But anyway, there is no yarn weight given in the description. So I guess you have to buy the pattern if you want to know what weight of yarn to knit that in. All right, so here's what happened. I get a lot of stories. You guys send me all manner of stories. I get the funny ones, the heartwarming ones, the sad ones, just the ones that we can relate to, the ones that we hope we never have to relate to. This one I feel is in a category of its own. This comes to me from Carol. Carol says, "Hi Devin, I always enjoy your knitting stories that people write in. My story is called The Demise of Louise. On this particular day, I had a phone call from my husband that started, 'Hi honey, first of all, no one got hurt, but my truck just burned to the ground.'" Okay, this is where the story's going. The day started. I love how she starts like at the end of the story. This is so literary, Carol. Like, I love how you did this. The day started with me being close to finishing a sweater that I had wanted to knit for some time. I was and still am a fan of Susan B. Anderson, and I was on a roll of knitting everything that she did. I saw her Louise cardigan that she had knit by Carrie Bostick Hogue of Matter Made in Quince & Co. Osprey in the colors Cumlian's Gull, Honey, and Belize, and I knew I had to have it. So let me just pause the story right there and say, I know exactly the podcast you're talking about. Susan did a podcast and she was wearing the sweater, and everyone who saw it went out and bought the yarn and made the sweater, myself included. I loved it. It's such a cute sweater. It's super basic cardigan, but the fact that it's in this bulky yarn and it had these two complementary colors on the button band and the cuffs, it was just so cute. I did the exact same thing as you, Carol. I went out and bought the yarn and I made the sweater. So I'll come back to that. Carol says, I was at the point of being ready to put on the button band and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go and soak it and block it first to make it easier. It was pretty close to being dry, but I thought I would just fluff it in the dryer for a few minutes before proceeding. However, right after I put the sweater in the dryer, I got the phone call from my husband. And my husband went on to tell me about the incident in great detail. So I think we all know what happened. So then, in true literary fashion, Carol goes back in time to say, I should give background in that my husband clears land for a living using a very large track excavator. He clears the land for developers, and this was in the middle of a very hot summer. He had a water wagon on the job site, which happened to be in a rather wooded area and was a bit of a distance from the site where he was working. While his log truck was heading up to get a load of wood, the driver called John and said, "Dude, your truck is on fire." And at first John laughed and thought he was kidding because that's ridiculous. However, this was no joke, and he could tell in the guy's voice when he said, "No, really, your truck is on fire." He walked his machine as fast as it would go to the truck and realized that the keys to unlock the water wagon were in the truck that was on fire. Sadly, they do have to lock these because otherwise they would get stolen. His only thought was, I can't let this fire get beyond the truck, as everything was very dry, and he knew that the fire could take off and cause damage to not only the woods, but the homes in the area. His only option was to rip the hood off the truck with his excavator and start filling the engine compartment with dirt. Oh my gosh, that is both insane and kind of genius, because what else are you gonna do? It worked. Oh my gosh, okay. Did I mention that he had 250 gallons of diesel in a tank in the back of the truck, which he used to fuel up his excavator with? And he had just filled the diesel tank that morning on the way to work. To end this very long story, he did get the fire out. He put it out with dirt. John, you're a genius. Oh my gosh. His truck was totaled. Yes, definitely. Here are some pictures. It's insane. Absolutely insane. And no one was injured. Like, that is a miracle. Oh my gosh. And thankfully, the fire did not cause any damage to the job site or area. I hope John got a promotion and a raise and maybe a new truck, because he deserved all of those things for saving the day in that moment. While all this was going on and John was explaining to me in detail what had happened, Louise was taking the heat as well, as she felted in the dryer. Yeah, Quince & Co. Osprey is a natural wool. It is not superwash. Carol says, I literally cried. It took me a while, but I did eventually pick up and put the button band on and sew on the buttons. And while it still sort of fits, and I have worn it a couple of times on my podcast, Carol Has Podcast, I still can't bring myself to knit another. So that is the story of the demise of Louise. She says, I love your podcast and I love seeing your girls involved with the fiber arts. I especially enjoyed you bringing your face forefront. I don't know what that means. Is that a misprint? I don't know. Personally, looking at these pictures, it doesn't look bad. I mean, I can tell that it's a little bit felted, but I think it looks pretty good. Possibly the most painful part of this, in addition to loving the sweater and putting all the time into it, is that yarn is expensive. It was over $100, I remember, when I bought the yarn to make mine. I ultimately donated mine because I didn't like it. Like, I thought it looked great on Susan, and when I put it on, I just felt like it was too bulky. I'm not sure if it was after that or before that, but Carrie Bostico did design a Louise in a fingering weight, I believe. I'm pretty sure. So if you like the sweater and you're interested in making one, there is the bulky version or the lighter version. I would definitely make the lighter version if I was going to make one, but then I live in Virginia. It depends kind of where you live too. But oh man, what a story. Have you ever heard of a more dramatic demise of a sweater? I think that wins the award, Carol, for most dramatic sweater demise. I'm sorry to laugh, because it really is, it's both tragic at the loss of the sweater and the truck, but also kind of amazing in how John solved that problem. Like, wow, crazy. Thank you so much for the story. Thank you for watching the podcast. If you have a knitting story, It's unlikely it will be as dramatic as this one, but please send it to me. I have a couple more. I think I'm full up on stories through the first or second week of February, but this is a weekly podcast. If you're new, subscribe and come back and send me a story, and I would love to have it on the podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you get some knitting in, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye, knitters.